Sinners, the 2025 film, is not just a horror story, it's an ancient legend filled with music, culture, and sins that will steal the sleep from your nights. Before you hear the whole story, please subscribe to this channel. In the beginning, we are told that, according to legends, there were some people in our world who created such soulful music that it could summon spirits from both the past and the future. It could also erase the line between the living and the dead. Worst of all, this music could attract devil. Movie begins and we see a young man named Sammy, who is badly injured and enters a church holding a broken guitar. Seeing Sammy in this condition, the people in the church get worried, and the pastor begins praying for him. They tell Sammy to stay away from evil. By abandoning the music, Sammy starts experiencing strange nightmares, indicating that something dangerous happened the previous night. The scene then cuts to the day before. The previous day, we see Sammy finishing his work and picking up his guitar in the church. The pastor of the community church, who we saw in the previous scene, is also Sammy's father. He wasn't happy with Sammy's musical hobby. In fact, he thought of music as a symbol of evil forces. But Sammy was not only passionate about music, he was an exceptional talent in the blues music genre. Blues is a soulful and emotional music genre developed by African American communities in the 19th century, specifically in the southern U.S. It usually involves slow tempos, deep lyrics, and excessive use of guitars or harmonicas to reflect emotions like pain, struggle, and real-life experiences. Many consider blues to be the foundation of modern genres like rock and jazz. The scene shifts to focus on twin brothers named Smoke and Stuck. These two brothers are World War I veterans who recently returned to their village in Mississippi after having made a lot of money while being part of gangs in Chicago. With the money, they plan to open a juke joint in their village, a place for music, dancing, drinks, and gambling, mostly for the African American community, to enjoy after a long day's work. After purchasing a place for their juke joint from a man named Hogwood, who turns out to be racist, the brothers start hiring talents. They first recruit Sammy to sing and play the guitar. We also learn that Sammy is their cousin. After that, Stuck and Sammy part ways with Smoke and hire a man named Delta Slim, who is good at playing the harmonica or piano. Sammy also interacts with a singer named Pearline, and it's clear that they like each other. Stuck also meets his ex-girlfriend, Mary, who is upset with him for not staying in touch after leaving her. We also find out that Mary's mother recently passed away and that Mary's mother had taken care of Smoke and Stuck when they were children. Mary is somewhat white, as her parents were half black, and she has now become part of the white community. Meanwhile, Stuck, Sammy, and Delta Slim visit a cotton field to recruit an old friend, Cornbread, as the doorman for the juke joint. Meanwhile, Smoke hires Grace and Bo, a local Chinese couple, to manage catering and create the atmosphere of food, drinks, and gambling at the juke joint. Afterwards, Smoke visits his wife, Annie, and we understand that their relationship is distant, primarily due to disagreements over occult rituals. Annie believes in and practices occult rituals, while Smoke, having traveled the world during the war, has never seen a ghost. Annie claims that these rituals were meant to keep the twins safe. Smoke, angry, reminds her that their little daughter, who passed away shortly after birth, wasn't saved by these rituals. After arguing, they become intimate. The story then shifts to a man named Remmick, who, in a badly injured state, takes refuge at the home of a couple, Bert and Joan. Shortly after, some vampire hunters arrive looking for Remmick, but the couple lies and says that no one has entered their house. As the sun sets, the hunters leave, but Remmick, who is a vampire, drinks Bert's blood and turns him into a vampire. Joan then screams, and the scene cuts. Returning to Stuck and Smoke, their juke joint is finally up and running, and it's opening night. Despite their different personalities, Smoke being serious and business-minded, and Stuck being more light-hearted, the night is a success. The juke joint is full of people enjoying the music, food, and gambling, and it's clear that the night is a huge success. Sammy performs blues music, and his songs are so powerful that they attract not just the spirits of the past and present, but also Remmick, who is drawn to the music. Remmick, along with Bert and Joan, who are now vampires, approaches the juke joint, asking to enter. He claims that he is attracted to Sammy's music and wants to enjoy it, but Smoke and Stuck deny him entry, primarily because he is white and is acting suspicious. In such a situation, Remmick leaves from this point. After all this, when Mary leaves the joint alone, she sees Remmick, Bert, and Joan. These people show her gold coins, saying that they could give them to gain entry into the joint. But during the conversation, Remmick's saliva starts dripping, indicating that he wants to drink Mary's blood. Mary senses something is wrong, but before she can escape, Remmick attacks her. Now Mary has also turned into a vampire. In the next scene, she asks permission from Cornbread to enter the bar, and then seduces Stack. As soon as Stack and Mary become intimate, Mary bites him, causing Stack's death. Just then, Smoke arrives, sees everything, and shoots Mary multiple times. However, Mary laughs and runs away, as if the bullets had no effect on her. After seeing Stack's death, Smoke becomes very emotional and tells the others to leave the joint. Annie immediately explains that this is mostly vampirism, and that's why Mary wasn't affected by the bullets. Smoke doesn't want to believe Annie's words but can't deny what he saw with his own eyes. Meanwhile, Cornbread, who had gone outside, is attacked by Remmick and turned into a vampire. After a while, Cornbread comes back to the joint, asking for permission to enter. Annie immediately points out that vampires cannot enter without permission, and since Cornbread is asking for permission, it means he has been converted. Cornbread then quickly changes the subject, demanding payment for today's work. As soon as Smoke extends his hand to give the money, Cornbread tries to bite him, but Smoke narrowly escapes and attacks Cornbread. At this point, trusting anyone has become impossible because it's unclear who has turned into a vampire. Cornbread, even after being shot, is still dancing. Meanwhile, Stack, who was dead, rises as a vampire but is repelled when Annie throws pickled garlic juice at him. Annie then explains that vampires can only be killed by silver or wooden stakes, and garlic can repel them. In fact, no vampire can enter any building without an invitation. Annie gives Smoke a talisman, a protective item, so he can protect himself, and advises everyone inside the joint to eat pickled garlic to prove that they are humans. Meanwhile, many people who had entered the joint earlier were customers who were dancing but were later sent outside. Vampires had attacked them, and they had turned into vampires, dancing with Remmick. In fact, Grace's husband was also turned into a vampire when he went outside to bring the car. So, we can say that only a few humans were left: Smoke, Annie, Sammy, Delta, Slim, Perlina, and Grace. The remaining humans were inside the joint, while outside, all the vampires were waiting for them. Smoke and the team's plan was to spend the night here, and before sunrise, the vampires would have to flee because they mostly can't survive in sunlight. Just then, Remmick comes to talk to them and tries to convince them to turn into vampires as well. Remmick clearly states that vampirism is the right way for them because there is no discrimination, they will gain immortality, freedom, and no racism. Remmick also reveals that Joan and Bert were actually from the local Hogwood clan, and their plan was to come in the morning, kill Smoke and Stack, and rob them of their money. This depicts how racism is rampant, and Smoke and Stack were about to be attacked just because they were black and had managed to make some money. In fact, we also learn that a vampire who converts another can access their memories. Just like Remmick could see Bert and Joan's memories, that's how he knew all this. So, Remmick's main plan was to turn Smoke and Stack into vampire before sunrise, as society would never respect them, no matter how much money they made. So, it would be better to embrace vampirism. Also, Stack had already turned into a vampire and was very happy with Mary, who was also a vampire. But Remmick wanted to turn Smoke and the others into vampires as well. This offer was tempting, but Smoke and the others refused it, and Remmick said he only needed Sammy. Remmick was impressed with Sammy's song, which had the power to stir both old and new spirits. So yes, he wanted Sammy, but of course, they didn't hand him over. This indicated that a full-on war was about to start. Meanwhile, Grace, who was upset about her husband's death, becomes enraged, and things get worse when Remmick says that he will attack Grace's daughter, who is currently at Grace's house. Upon hearing this, Grace loses control and challenges the vampires. Now, they can enter because it's kind of an invitation, and thus, a full-blown war breaks out. In the ensuing fight, Annie, Grace, and Delta Slim are killed. In fact, Delta Slim sacrifices himself to save Sammy, Smoke, and Pralina. Now, Mary, who was already a vampire, is devastated by Annie's death and flees in shock. This was particularly tragic because Stack had bitten Annie, turning her into a vampire, and Smoke had to stake Annie with a wooden stake, which was very heartbreaking for him. Afterward, Sammy and Pralina try to escape, but Remmick and Stack trap them in the middle. Smoke arrives, and a brutal fight ensues between Smoke and Stack, while Sammy and Pralina face off against Remmick. During the fight, Pralina is bitten by a vampire, and before dying, she begs Sammy to escape and save his life. Sammy tries to escape by car, but Remmick stops him. All the vampires are now standing with Remmick, and Sammy's time is about to end. But at the last moment, Sammy picks up his guitar and smashes it on Remmick's head. Most likely, the guitar had a silver plate, which got embedded in Remmick's head. Although this didn't kill him, it caused immense pain. In fact, we see the other converted vampires also writhing in pain. Before Remmick can retaliate, Smoke arrives and finally kills Remmick with a wooden stake. A few seconds later, the sunrise begins, and all the vampires burn to death. Smoke tells Sammy to leave quickly because Hogwood and his clan are coming in the morning. Sammy escapes, and shortly after, Hogwood and the clan arrive. Smoke, armed with guns, faces them alone and kills most of them. However, he is severely injured in the fight and, with his last breath, sees a beautiful vision of Annie and her daughter. In the end, due to his injuries, he dies. Sammy, who is exhausted and overwhelmed with grief, returns to his father's church. This is the same first scene of the film. Sammy's father, the pastor, asks him to give up music and choose salvation, but Sammy refuses and walks out of the church, holding his guitar. The film ends here. Please like and subscribe.